It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back. We're doing a little bit of a yap sesh, no script or notes or anything, whatever you want to call it. Just straight off the dome, just a stream of consciousness, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about DVD fatigue and why I think that a lot of us DVD creators, I think, are just kind of moving on from DVD as a whole. At least from like some of the creators that I've been keeping up with and trying to I would at least consider like within the same sort of like sub count and stuff like that, have completely shifted over to other asymmetrical games. And one of those games I think has been Outlast Trials, that I've seen like people have really been having a lot more attention on that game instead. I've actually been seeing just other topics and stuff like that just being discussed. I even think that people in general just have less of an interest in this dog doodle game, and I'm thinking maybe there's a fighting chance that finally all of us DVD creators are going to be able to move on to greener pastures at some point. I'm certainly willing to do that, and I'm curious to see what you guys think as well. Like, are you guys also on that same path and same energy that you guys want to move on to a different game, a different topic, a different thing? Because at the end of the day, we're just constantly basically stating the obvious when it comes down to how bad the game is. And I mean, there's only so many ways you could just say the same exact thing. It's pretty obvious. We already understand that. We already know that. The game is pretty bad. It goes without saying. The game is frustrating. It's unfair. It's unfun. Speaking for myself at least, like, I never found Survivor to be that enjoyable. I only really enjoyed the chases, and obviously you can't really do that for most of the game because objectively the killer should not be chasing you for super long. And obviously if you're also in solo queue, your teammates are not doing the objective, so your chase kind of means nothing. So it's like you're kind of having fun with it, but it doesn't really add up to anything substantial or useful or anything like that. You just don't get rewarded because it is a team-based game. So on the other hand, like, playing killer is pretty enjoyable because that's what I find the most fun. It is the most rewarding in the sense that the time you put in is going to be what you get out of it. And when it comes down to learning killers and stuff like that, you're not really a master when you just play like 5 hours of the character. Like, you can learn so many things about characters and little mechanics and techs and things and different ways to play the characters that I've always found to be the most enjoyable. And that's why I always have stated that killer in general is just going to have like way more information, way more things to learn, way more things to pay attention to. And unfortunately, because of that, it's the less casual of the two sides. And then of course that leads to more players gravitating to the more casual side. And of course, even from when I have done coaching for DVD for any like newcomers and stuff like that, when I've done coaching, even they have stated themselves, like, they just preferred to play Survivor because it was just way more casual. It was just way easier to play, and therefore was just way more enjoyable for them to do. So as a result, I think that that's sort of expected. You know what I mean? It really is the side that does not require you to be that good to be able to get the same results as somebody who is good. And I think that is a telltale sign that like we're not going in the right direction with this game. And with this game in general, I think that there are a lot of factors, I would say, that come into it, obviously, and that is beyond obvious. I mean, I've covered so many topics at this point, but if we look at other asymmetrical games, the second that they started to boost up one particular side, being the Survivor side, the game dies. Like, that's usually what ends up happening. We've seen this with Video Horror Society. We've seen this with Killer Clowns. We've seen this with I can't say Friday the 13th yet, but I'm pretty sure that it was probably just the licensing that caused it to kind of explode and die. But beyond that, like, pretty much every other asymmetrical game that has failed, usually it was a result of overtuning the Survivor instead of giving people the power role to allow it to actually be interesting. Now, one of the things that I think that keeps TBD going, I think, is the fact that you can choose to play as the power role if you want, versus being just randomly chosen to be the power role, which I think is one of the reasons why I always kind of gravitated toward DBD instead of other ASIMs, because of that. Like being able to hop into the side with that actually has superpowers in general, to me, is more enjoyable and more interesting, because if I'm buying a game called Killer Clowns, I want to play as the Killer Clowns, like, for example. Or if I'm playing the Halloween game, I want to play as Myers. Like, that's what I want to do. That's the whole point. Because that's the dude's on the freaking cover of the game. Like, I want to play what I bought. And unfortunately, a lot of ASIMs just kind of have that thing where it's like, nah, you have to randomly be selected, and I've always hated that. And DBD is at least the one game that I can go, hey, at least I can choose to be what I want to play, and I can continue to do that. Like, I'm not forced to just like sit there and whenever the game feels like it, I can play what I want to play. I've always had that problem with it. And the other issue I have, obviously, is the fact that because the DBD's like leaking money, as we can probably imagine, like they're just running out of funds. They need to focus on what gives them the most amount of money. And of course, like, survivor skins are easier to make and are going to make more money than a killer skin at the end of the day, because there's more survivor players. It's more casual, so more casual players are going to be spending money on it. And there's more ways to mix and match these cosmetics, which inevitably will make more money too. So of course, like, it goes without saying, like, you're going to make a double, if not triple, through a survivor than you are going to get from a killer player. That's just how it goes. And unfortunately, like, that is the sad reality, which of course causes the game to kind of like fail. It kind of flounders, and as I guess is the right term for it, because of that fact. And it's like ridiculous that people can try to solely say like, oh, it's clearly the both sides situation, it's not an us versus them situation. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the math, you have to look at behavior and their response to these things. Like, even with surveys, they never were asking killer players why they're uninstalling. Every single survey had only survivor focused questions, because they only were focusing on the survivor funding that was giving them the most amount, bang for their buck, if you will. So what does that say for the state of the game, and what does that say for the future of the game? I think that I mean, to this day, I'm still surprised the game is going. I think it's just because there really is no competition. DBD, I think, at least from my perspective, has like a monopoly on the genre right now, because ultimately, like, there's no other game that has like the character selection variety when it comes down to playing as the different characters. Because like, when you release an ASIM that is just Killer Clowns, or an ASIM that is just the Halloween, like, it's just Myers, or like if you release an ASIM and it's just Freddy, or it's just Ghostface, or it's just blah blah blah, like, it will always end up getting kind of stale, because obviously those abilities don't really change as a result. Now, fact of the matter is, I think Friday probably would have survived anyway. I think there was still a lot of variety within that. Like, you had the option to kill Jason, and in some cases you also had like the Jarvis thing, where like you can come back as Tommy if you get killed and stuff like that. And and I have to say that, like, Jason was a threat, and I think maybe that's what made it the game successful, at least from my perspective, because that was, to me, the most enjoyable thing about it. And the fact of the matter is that we are dealing with these developers that are trying to essentially make the most amount of funding so that they can move on to be publishers and do other kinds of stuff. And they're using this as a medium to make funds. They're using this as a way to do basically everything else besides make the game better. And it's been shown even with other projects that they tried to spread out to. They're just very incompetent. I mean, it's been shown evidently from their recent games. Like, they tried the whole casting of Frank Stone. Historically, was very boring, from what I've understood. I probably can play it for you guys who are consistent viewers and stuff like that. If you want to see that, let me know. I could try to do a playthrough of it, because I haven't even experienced the game. From what I've heard, it was pretty boring. I ultimately just wanted the cosmetics at the time that I got it. I kind of wanted the trapper stuff. I thought it was cool. But regardless, I do think that The only standout I think is Identity V, but it's not even popular, at least from my perspective. From what I've seen, I don't even think it's remotely popular, um, in the West. I really just don't think it is. I feel like, toward the East, I mean, hell yeah, like I feel like it's popping over there in the East. You know what I mean? I think it's because it's a mobile game too, and those tend to just be better overseas. I guess people just like them overseas more. But at the end of the day, I think that because of its lack of popularity overall, I think a lot of players, myself included, are very hesitant to even want to like even try to load up Identity V, because I even only started playing DVD because of the licenses anyway. So like Identity V has none of those things that I joined the game for. So at the end of the day, like I have no really sort of ties to the gameplay experience. I have no real ties to the like the characters as a whole, because I don't even really like the original characters that much regardless. So I can at least say confidently I'm quite detached from what DVD has to offer. I'm more so here for Freddy. I'm more so here for William Birkin from freaking Resident Evil. Like I'm here for the big boy names, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Myers, which he's getting removed from the store so people can't buy him anymore, but still people who have him can play him, like Pinhead. He got also removed from the store too. And at the end of the day, like I don't get it. You know what I mean? Even to this day, I still don't understand like what people loved about the game so much. People are getting like tattoos of this for this game. They're getting stickers and books, board games, like all these kinds of stuff. And I never understood it. I even to this day, as playing as long as I have been, I still don't get it. I still don't understand the love for the game. I still don't get it. I don't know. I still don't understand it. It just seems like such a far-fetched concept to me that somebody could love this game, because I just have not experienced it. Even when I started, it was rough. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a fun experience. Like I played Trapper. I didn't have any perks, of course. And what other characters did I really have, right? Like I think the only characters that were free were like what? Trapper, Nurse, Wraith, I think, and maybe Huntress. I'm not even sure. Like back then. And like when you're starting out, like at least to me, I was like, I don't really want to play this like dude wearing no shoes, like wearing a rags, and like you know what I'm saying, with a maraca for a weapon and a belt. I was like, nah, I'm not playing Wraith. Like get that out of here. So I played Trapper because at least it looked cooler. And I'll also try to get a feel for the game and see if I liked it enough to obviously then start to play as Freddy and Ghostface and stuff like that. And it's rough, right? Like I've experienced the same new player experience that everybody else probably has. Maybe to some exceptions, I've spoken to some people that did not have the same experience as I did. I mean, I was getting like bully squads back to back to back to back. Like I would get messaged constantly for just either winning or losing. You would get salt, and it was ridiculous, right? At the end of the day, you're kind of forged by the fire. And I think that when it comes down to this sort of game and this new player experience as well, it's just the fact that you simply are sort of forced into this sort of situation. Like, are you going to power through this? Are you going to be able to be forged by the fire, and become anew, you know what I mean? Become a ruthless killer player and understand that, how to win and how to play and how to strategize and how to do these things. And you power through that and you're like, yo, like I'm going to win this thing because I want to prove something. I want to show that I can win this shit. Prove it to myself, prove it to everybody else who doubted me type shit. I'm gonna make it out of this. Right? And then there's other people's that that like it's sink or swim. Like some people just are like, nah, I'm done, I'm gonna give up, I quit, I can't take it, blah blah blah. And that's perfectly fine, that's perfectly valid. And that's the two paths that people take, and I chose the path of I'm going to power through this. I'm going to learn everything I can so I can get better and I can show these people that I'm better, essentially. And I certainly would say that I did. I would certainly say that I did. And I wanted to, educate other people as well to kind of show them how it's done. But at the end of the day, I just was not able to, of course, because we also are we're looking at this from the standpoint as well. Like, there's just we're not in a community that wants to learn. We're not in a community that wants to improve. As much as, like, I would say killer content's like culture is about education, is about improvement, it's about understanding your character, understanding the text and mechanics, uses. Like, your power as a killer player is a toolbox, and understanding what you can do with that in itself is unique and interesting. Um, and to me, the most engaging. I mean, like, I personally don't really enjoy watching survivor content because, like, a lot of it's on the gen, save on the gen, save on the gen, heal on the gen, save on the gen. And if they're in chase, like, usually if the killer's smart enough, they're like, I can't stay in this for like 10 seconds, so the chase will last about 10 seconds or less, and then they're like, oh, I'm out of here. And then if they're going against like new players, then it's just kind of boring because it's like, okay, they're getting stunned for some reason, they're missing their attack for some reason, like they're clearly bad at the game. I just feel bad for the killer player, because they don't know what's going on. So I'm like, yeah, like, they just don't know. And then I just think that they're getting frustrated, and it's just unfortunate for them. So, like, overall, I would just say, even around the content space, like, it just comes down to that, really. um from my perspective, of course, you know what I mean. And at the end of the day, I think this is what leads into, what makes the game just so terrible. You know what I mean? I think that it's definitely a symptom of the devs. Like, I think if the devs were to really, sit there and actually, sift through the BS and actually, put their foot down, I would, in a lot of ways, in order to kind of show, like, maybe learn how to play our game. Like, these are things in the game that are perfectly valid. um but they also can't do that, right? Because their finances are directly affected by the most casual of players, and then of course that's going to cause a lot of problems for them, of course, because I would say that killer players are probably going to be more dedicated, even though there's plenty of sort of diehard killer players. There's probably also plenty of casual killer players as well. As far-fetched as that is to say, it is very true. They do exist, and I think that that's just simply like a side effect of that. And I think that I've seen one creator after another, like, step away from the game or distance themselves from the game over and over and over for various reasons. I mean, whether it be like a survivor player, I think they just get sick of having to deal with strategy. Even though the game entirely caters to, making survivor easier every update. At the end of the day, I was a little bit confused by even the swing I'm looking at here. What the? Anyway, sorry. Point being that I've seen some creators, like, kind of step away, even though, like, they were survivor mains, and it's, the game only has given them bonuses. They still step away. They just don't want to deal with the strategies, and they want to play it hyper casually, as they usually do. And then when it comes down to, like, I would even imagine, like, killer players, they're just done stressing out, you know. And I feel like there's a lot of players that I used to even hop in with 2v8s before, and then they just don't play anymore. Shit, like, I don't even play anymore as well, speaking for myself. Like, I just think that, the game's just lacking in so many areas, and it's just, we're kind of shown, like, by the devs, that we just don't matter if we play killer, and it's unfortunate. And it's just a lot of stuff that goes into play where it just leads right back to this fatigue of, like, why even play? Like, why even, like, at this point now, I'm like, why even talk about the game? Like, we're already hitting a point now where it's like, we already know the truth. Like, we have uncovered so much information about this game, and we already understand, like, the devs are clearly catering to a side. We can see that the bias and the gaslighting is insane. Which, it just goes on and on and on. You know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on. And what is there to say, right? So essentially, that's really my thoughts, I guess. Like, my conclusion, I guess, is like, maybe I can try to join those people who also moved on. I mean, shout out to Killer Whale as well. Killer Whale was a perfect example of somebody who made great content, like video essays and stuff like that. And I gotta say, like, dude knocked it out the park with content, I would have to say. And bro was like, "Yo, I'm done with DBD," and he kept his promise. He was done. He's like, I didn't play the game. He feels great. He uninstalled or whatever have you. He did whatever he did, and he was just done. And he never went back. And I'm like, I gotta say, like, maybe we could get more creators on that same wave. Maybe we can get more people on that same wave, and we can all get, focus on games that actually matter to us, that focus on games that actually I'm not gonna say cater, but that care about the player, like that actually care about the people who play their game, regardless of what they think is more fun. Like that would be way cooler than a dev team that doesn't care about your time, that does not care about you besides your profit, which at the end of the day, it's a business. We understand that. But I think that we should have more objective devs. Like I would want a dev that is going to think about every player's experience and try to make it fun for every player, not just, oh, this one player specifically or this kind of player specifically matters, but the rest of them don't. Like that's ridiculous. I mean, we could even talk about like a dev, I would say like a golden standard is like the dev for Stardew Valley. I mean, bro was out here like making a masterpiece pretty much on his own for a little bit. Now he works with a team. And he wants things to go well. He's like, nah, he's not worried about the funds, man. He's just worried about making a good games, good content, things that are fun. And I'm like, wow, that's a lost art in this gaming space. But it's just a lot, man. I think it's just a lot of stuff that goes into this. There's just so much that can be said when it comes down to DVD and just the fatigue. I mean, I think I'm even at a point with Killer where it's like, what's the point of me even trying to, engage with the content, or even creating the content is just kind of stale now, at least from my perspective, because like, what is there to talk about anymore? And like I've said, like, we're in a community that doesn't really care about education. They don't really care about trying to improve. They don't really care that much about it at the end of the day. And, I'm not going to continue to be one of the pioneers of that anymore. I think, I'm a living example of improvement is always going to do wonders for you. But at the end of the day, we also have to focus on ourselves, right? We have to focus on what we want to do, what really matters to us. You know what I mean? And that's speaking for everybody listening or watching this. Focusing on what you think matters in this world is really what's more important, I would say, than wasting away your on bullshit that really does not matter. I mean, I really don't recommend, like, if you're sick of DBD, to continue to do so. Like, continue to play. You know what I mean? And I gotta take my own advice, I think, too. Like, there's like so many cool things that we can talk about, create, discuss, post, whatever, edit, you know what I mean? All these kinds of cool things that we could do that don't have to pertain to this god-awful game. And even like I've stated before, like I've just been so much about the licenses. Like I don't think that I have a favorite original character besides maybe Legion, but even then it's like I still think they're lacking in cosmetics. I think that there was a lot to be desired, I guess. And speaking on licenses as well, as a license enjoyer, I also want to talk about just like the representation of these licenses. I think that a lot of even the representation of these licenses are just terrible. I think that there are certain things that could have been added or should have been added that just simply weren't. I look at Pig as a good example of that. Like, I wish that we had gotten a more screen accurate sort of like red, well, I guess not technically red, but had red accents, but the sort of black robe that they wear in the movies. We had gotten an outfit for that, but it was like open and it doesn't really like give you the full outfit really, because you're getting like fishnets and like a tank top, and I'm like, but that's not really what we're trying to play as. Like, it's just, that's not the screen accurate outfit. And I mean, and even when we talk about with like Ghostface, for example, like it's not even a screen accurate Ghostface character, it's just an original character that they created with a mask license. So it's like, even my own favorite character right? Even, you know, even that, it's like I don't even get what I want out of it. Like, and it's flat. It's terrible. You know, and you know, maybe I'm just going off, man. I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff that sort of is wrapped around this game, man. And I'm sure there's probably plenty of great creators out there that are a part of this space, but I also hope, you know, the best for them as well. I hope that they are able to move on if they can. But I'm also pretty sure that a lot of people that I do recommend, you know, like especially on Twitch, that I, you know, continue to rate and stuff like that, are not completely obsessed with DBD, and they do play other things, and I'm glad that they're able to do that. I think people should be allowed some agency in that sense, and you know, hopefully we can expand out. You know what I mean? We can do different things, be more, be the everybody's so creative individual. You know. So that's really just my thoughts, I guess. I mean, what else is there to add to this? I mean, speaking of licenses as well, that just popped up in my head. Springtrap, man. One of the biggest licenses flopped heavily, and The Walking Dead, followed by that, also flopped. Two massive names, dude, like in the horror genre, especially in the modern day horror genre, and just flopped. Like, doo-doo flopped, like completely buggiest it's ever been. And you know, in a lot of situations like this, I always reference Thanos. They called me a madman. They called me a madman, and that has only reigned true even to this day, because I called this out many months ahead of time. I was like, the game is going to fall off. The game is going to fail if they continue in this direction, and they're doing exactly what I said they were going to do. You know, they're doing exactly what I said they were going to do, and I knew it was happening. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it would. I knew it was going to happen because of the mere fact that I can see from the very beginning. I'm like, they keep on catering to this particular kind of player, and they're only catering to this particular side with every update that we're seeing. It's so evident, and it's sad because it's like, why aren't all the players valued? And obviously, even more than that, let's talk, like, we can even touch on killer anxiety as well. Killer anxiety, I think, is another perfect example of like a big issue with this game, because the fact that people are genuinely anxious to play a particular side of the game is very telling for how bad that side of the game can be to play. Because why should a player feel embarrassed to try to even pick up a side or play a side or do whatever that kind of thing? Why should a player be doing that? How is that fair to that person who's trying to play the game? They bought their game the same that everybody else has, and they can't even play half of it. Like, how is that fair? Let alone the fact that the more casual side is also arguably the most boring side, because you're doing busy work all day. So like, you miss out on some of the most interesting, thought-provoking game interactions that the game has to offer because of that. Because there's so many like little things that can differentiate a good killer player from a great one. Just little things, like little decisions that you can do that completely will change the outcome of a match. And that's what I found so engaging about this game and about playing killer. And that's why even when I talk about like, even like, as you can see on the channel with the courses in learning killer, notice when you point out little things, like how different things connect into each other, right? It's kind of insane. And on the surface, it's like, oh, you're just chasing people around and you're stabbing up people or doing whatever. But at the end of the day, the game has way more depth than people want to give it credit for, and I think that's also why people don't play killer in general. But yeah, I mean, that's the Yap sesh, I guess, for you guys. I mean, I feel like I went on about all sorts of different stuff, a little bit kind of unorganized, I'd say, but I think it covers like my main issues with the game as a whole. I think that there's just so much stuff you could talk about. I mean, we could be here all freaking day, like yapping about how bad the game is. I mean, there's so much wrong with this game. Like, it's insane. I mean, but I think it's time for a change. I think it's time for a lot of us to just move on. I think it's time for a lot of us to kind of like push forward into a direction where we actually can, I don't know like how to describe it really, like just I think it's just time. I think it's finally time that we just all start to move on into greener pastures and do other things that will give us some joy in this life, you know what I mean? And I think that maybe I'm gonna try to do that on this channel, and hopefully you guys will stay tuned for that, because it's gonna be non-DBD stuff. I guess we can try to start making more stuff for that. Maybe we can start going into another direction with this, you know what I mean? And hopefully you guys will be like locked in, you know, for that kind of stuff, because it's like, you know, we're like broken records, I think, at this point. But let me know your thoughts, of course. Stay tuned for all the fancy new content and things like that by leaving a like, comment, and hitting the sub button. Maybe even hit the bell to get notified for all the new stuff. Consider supporting the channel with the links. Become a member as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for all my members at the end of the video. I wanted to go ahead and thank all my members from Patreon: Crow King 101, YouTube members: Majora Jeff, T.O.N. Dyer, Zero Mocker, Christian, Crow Vader, Noxus, Jack, Dole, a whip. Let's go. Twitch. We also have Cake, Danica, Final Girl Bunny, Zero Mocker, Ginsburg, Zaz, Crow, PB Head, Mr. Morik, and Dole as well. I appreciate all you guys for supporting, and I will see you guys. If you want to become a member, go ahead and join, and I'll see you guys in the next one.